Welcome to another video talking about the best stats and melds you should aim for on each job. So if you ever wondered what gear you should choose from and what material you should put into that gear, but also don't want to spend hours in checking out my job videos or the balance, you have come to the right place. As a short disclaimer, some jobs do offer different builds and stat distributions that are used for different combat styles and rotations. So don't look at this overview as the alpha and omega, just as a recommendation and a solid foundation to start with. That also means weapon damage is king and item level is king. Never sacrifice too many item levels or points of weapon damage for having the optimal stats. If you have 20, 30 or more item levels, chances are high that this is an improvement. Above that, while there are some specialties for all jobs, critical hit is the way to go with each of them. It's insanely powerful and through its progressive value, the most of your damage potential is drawn from. And with further patches and tiers, this stat becomes stronger and stronger. And for the ultimate exception of relic gear, which will be updated in future patches, you have to remember that having 5 full slots for big materia can make a difference. So if you already find good stats on the armor piece itself and you can melt something that your job can make use of, the overall stat distribution is very strong and only outperformed by good 490 or not too bad 500 pieces. But enough talk on the introduction, let us hop into the first job, the warrior. A true and fell-cleaving warrior should always aim for critical hit, while not sacrificing too many item levels and weapon damage. After that, due to its inner release window, the warrior favors determination over direct hit, unlike the other tanks, because during that inner release window, direct hits are guaranteed anyway, so every point of it is wasted in your most burst intense phase. But on the skill speed department we also have something to take into consideration, because the most important thing is to get 5 fell cleaves into your target when being under that inner release window. If you can't, increase skill speed, and as long as that is guaranteed, your secondary stat hierarchy goes critical hit, determination, tenacity and then direct hit. On the Dark Knights department things are going a kinda similar route. While still focusing mainly on weapon damage and item level, the goal with it is to reach an attack speed value. With that you can get 5 weapon skills into your blood weapon and delirium window, while timing them perfectly right into the last spot for an off global cooldown. The lowest value at which you can reach that is about 949, resulting in 2.44 recast timer. But I highly recommend to go higher depending on your Ethernet connection and ping. Just try it out for yourself. After that, any point of skill speed is nearly wasted and you should primarily head for critical hit and direct hit, while direct hit cannot be found on gear itself but has to be melded in. Then choose determination, and if you're able to, try to use tenacity over skill speed when you already reach your blood weapon and delirium comfort, and meld in critical or direct hit if crit is already maxed out. Of course, after you manage these secondary stats, your goal is to choose a very edgy glamour and paint all pieces as black as you can for at least a 20 to 30 DPS by your coolness. The Gunbreaker is more flexible and doesn't need a very strict skill speed value, and if you go higher or lower, this depends on your personal playstyle. My recommendation is to head for a value between 9 to 1100 to get the same minimum speed value of your Dark Knight and Paladin as gear is shared. So if that is secured and you feel comfortable about the speed aspect of your rotation, go for critical hit, direct hit and determination, while focusing on crit melds and choose direct hit melds as secondary choice. And like always, tenacity can be used over unnecessary skill speed values, so if you feel comfortable with it, choose heavy item levels over skill speed pieces then. On the Paladin, you should head for weapon damage and item level and the highest crit value you can get without sacrificing too many other stats. On the skill speed department, my personal recommendation is to hit values with skill speed that make possible a Flight of Fight 11 opener. That means having 11 GCDs into its buff windows. The lowest skill speed value with that you can reach this is 814. But I definitely recommend to go onto 900 or use Popoto Salad, that gives you another step for your GCD and a nice crit boost as well. Otherwise you will run into certain disalignments on many openers. So after that, meld in direct hit where crit is already maxed out and favor determination over additional skill speed or tenacity. Starting with the first ranged physical DPS, the Bard uses a different approach than its fellow role comrades, due to having a kinda solid use for skill speed, so nearly all stats can be used properly. Heading for item level and weapon damage values mostly is a solid plan. But as you are sharing the gear with Machinist and Dancer, and as critical hit, direct hit and determination are better than skill speed, still try to keep it as low as possible, while not sacrificing an insane amount of bulkiness through main stats found on higher item level pieces. The Machinist on the other hand follows on identical steps, with the biggest difference having a much lower value from skill speed, so a way should lead us into weapon damage, item level and critical hit rating again. After that, try to find a balance between direct hit and determination, because unlike the other jobs, the Machinist doesn't profit so heavily from D-hit because of reassemble making the next attack a direct hit anyways. While critical hit value will also boost the max damage of critical hits, direct hit will only give you the chance for a static value boost that is not increased by increasing direct hit values. Therefore, determination can be seen as nearly equal, but if you have chosen a high D-hit value due to the shared equipment with your bard or dancer, don't worry too much about it. And when looking at skill speed, try to avoid it mostly without sacrificing too many item levels or weapon damage in the process. Dancing also takes us down the same route. I know, Shadowbringers is kinda boring at these, so head for item level and weapon damage mostly, then use most critical hit you can come up with without sacrificing too many high item level pieces. Followed by direct hit, which is a bit stronger than on our Machinist, so take it over determination and determination over skill speed where it fits into your tier. Skill speed should be avoided, so weigh the Crystarium pieces without it over those Eden pieces with skill speed on them and vice versa, because it could affect the dancer's rotation negatively. On the White Mage, the general healer stat distribution is a bit differently than on tanks or DPS jobs, but still, you should head for item level and weapon damage with a keen eye on critical hit rating. After that, you should favor determination over direct hit unless you want to go crazy on DPS percentiles on FFXIV, and choose spell speed as the alternative that is still better than any point of piety when you can manage your MP without worrying too much about it. That also means piety should be avoided when usually you don't run into MP issues, but it's the best secondary stat when struggling with your MP, because no MP means no casts. But as our 480 pieces and some Savage or Crystarium stuff are naturally bolstered with tons of piety for no good reason, just stick to solid item levels and try to favor good pieces without tons of piety on them. Even with the 5.3 changes, the Astrologian seems to be the weakest on MP region, so head for weapon damage and item level followed by critical hit like always, then choose determination when you focus on a balanced DPS and HPS relation, or take direct hit if you plan an FFXIV's parsing career. And by the way, note that it can only be melded and won't be found on gear pieces naturally as healer. While piety is worse than any other stat for DPS and efficiency optimization, the Astrologian needs a pinch more than White Mage or Scholar, because its big heal spells consume tons of MP and will be used quite frequently when you need to power heal even after 5.3. But as recent gear has a solid natural piety distribution, don't worry too much about it. So choose your piety comfort level and take skill speed after critical hit, determination and direct hit. The Scholar's gearing system works nearly identical to the one of the White Mage, so head for item level and weapon damage with critical hit rating in mind. After that, you should favor determination over direct hit if you're not going to grind down FFXIV's percentiles. And choose spell speed as the alternative that is still better than any point of piety when you can manage your MP without running into issues with it. That again means piety should be avoided when you usually don't run into MP issues, but is the best secondary stat when struggling with your MP. When it comes to gearing up a samurai, there are a million ways to choose the appropriate equipment for it. My rule of thumb is to head for weapon damage in the first place, then choose some fitting item level values with heavy crit and direct hit stats on them, followed by determination. That sounds easy, right? Yeah, kinda, but when you want to dive deeply into the rotational theory and a GCD management, the skill speed tiers are a significant factor that decide important points of your attack sequences. Therefore, my suggestion is to head for the lowest skill speed tier. This tier requires a 685 skill speed value when being precisely to reach the goal of a 28 weapon skill or GCD loop that only needs one filler GCD. But if you really want to dig deeply into the skill speed tiers on the samurai, other than mostly avoiding it, check out the balanced Discord. On the ninja, we are following the general scheme, trying to max out item level and weapon damage while sticking to solid critical hit values. After that, we should choose direct hit and determination while avoiding skill speed in the process, to not fall out of your rotation, which can be the case at too high skill speed values. So head for Crystarium or Eden's Verse Savage pieces and allow some help on the skill speed department from your Huton's 15% speed increase. That alone will make the deal, and you can focus on weapon damage, item level, critical hit, direct hit and determination. On our beloved Dragoon, you should head for weapon damage, item level and critical hit rating. Then you should try to favor direct hit over determination if your high item level pieces make that possible, and as top Dragoon still head for the base skill speed direction, I highly recommend to follow on their lead. Surely the skill speed comfort level still sits at around 814 skill speed, but the rotation works with the base value nonetheless. Yeah, sometimes it's more simple than you think, and the equipment system in Final Fantasy XIV isn't as complicated as some may believe. But to be fair, on some jobs it actually is, like the Monk for example. The Monk has multiple skill speed tiers, but they only make sense if you're aiming for a perfect and flawless execution of your rotation, without uptime delay or anything like that. So nonetheless, let me recommend the balance advised sweet spot of 914 skill speed. Everything above that value can cause rotational disalignment, but as 5.3 has delivered some quality of life changes to the Monk, optimizing your rotation is not so difficult like it had been before the patch. The more important approach is to take care of your item level, which means base stats and weapon damage, while heading for some nice critical hit values that heavily boost your rate at which you receive meditation stacks. After that, your priority brings you to direct hit followed by determination. Casters are a bit more straightforward, especially the summoner. Head for item level and weapon damage and move into nice critical hit values afterwards. When it comes to direct hit and determination, you're mostly forced to take some pieces with that and others with direct hit, while D-hit is in slight advantage, so melding pieces with crit maxed out, your choice should always go to direct hit. But apart from that, the most important thing is to avoid spell speed because of the insane number of OGCDs the summoner has at its disposal. While still technically buffing the strength of your dots, the absence of use for spell speed is real on your off globals, and it doesn't help much with your GCDs either. The Red Mage nearly works identical, like the summoner, spell speed should be mainly avoided, so when choosing Crystarium and Eden gear or anything later on, take those without spell speed. To not waste its potential on too many off globals and your dual casts that are not heavily affected by spell speed to grant it any good value. So after avoiding spell speed, your best secondary stat is critical hit followed by direct hit. So try to find good values for them and meld in that order. The last stat that is still much better than spell speed can be found in determination, so don't hesitate to choose determination and crit pieces, even if that would mean an item level downgrade. Other than Red Mage and Summoner, the Black Mage can really make use of a bulky spell speed value, and most of the Black Mage and caster gear is packed with it, so you can easily go for spell speed while aiming at high item level values and weapon damage. Still, critical hit is a bit stronger and should never be neglected, but for most openers and rotations, a high spell speed value works very nicely and grants you that nice extra flexibility, which is always good on the sturdy Black Mage and having so many AoE based encounters in the recent tier. After these two stats, make your way for either determination or direct hit, and because of having another secondary stat other than crit being highlighted, your choice doesn't matter that much, so go for item level and the first two big boy stats. And that's it guys. I know this is only a brief overview on certain things, but like I said, equipment choices and melds are not so important in Final Fantasy XIV. Executing a rotation properly can easily make a much heavier difference. So you should not take it too seriously, and if you don't care about secondary stats, you could easily just stack item level and push out damage with it. But of course, for this little quench of fine-tuning or hitting hard like big raider buddies do, optimizing your secondary stats can really make a difference and get you backed up with tons of confidence on the DPS chart. So I hope this video could help you in finding yourself into certain jobs gearing opportunities, and if that is the case and if you want to know more about their playstyle or battle system, check out my comprehensive or 5-minute job guides as well, to learn the essentials that matter more than gear does. Nonetheless, thank you for watching, check me out on Twitch as well if you like to talk about equipment or other things, and until next time, thank you for your amazing support, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep loving Final Fantasy.